Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
I'm ready when you are.
Yeah, Guy. Yeah, friggin' Guy. Welcome, everybody. It is Spit, and it's Tuesday afternoon, December 14th, 2021. I'm Scott Bass, and my friend and co-host David Lee Scales is with us as well. Good afternoon, David.
Hey, good afternoon. Happy holidays, Scott.
Happy holidays. Yes. How's everything at the Scales household?
Full of Christmas cheer.
Oh, that's good.
Christmas shopping is done. Wrapping is underway. There's a Christmas tree in the living room, watching holiday movies every day. Things are good.
Nice. Good for you. I did a bunch of sort of like holiday cooking, I guess you could say today. Not a bunch, but I made a soup because it's kind of wintry here in Southern California. So I made a nice soup and I pickled some red onions. And what else did I do? I think that's it for now.
What are the pickled onions for?
Just to have pickled onions,
Yeah.
Red
I
onion.
we keep them in the fridge too, pretty much all the time. I love pickled anything.
Yeah. Tell me about your pickled onion recipe. Do you have a secret?
No, and it changes all the time. Sometimes I
whatever's
will
available.
use, sometimes I'll have pickling spice in the house and I'll throw that in there if I have it. But if not, I'm happy with just red wine vinegar with the onions, and that's enough.
Yeah, I put a jalapeno in this time. So I chopped up a jalapeno with and I put some honey in with the vinegar. Yeah.
Interesting.
We've
got the crock pot going today as well because of the winter weather. Is it raining down there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's totally raining here too.
And so I made a soup that's called carne de Suiza, which I'm not sure what Suiza means.
Well, it's a cream sauce, right?
Yeah, that's not what it is though. I don't know. I think
when
it
you
should be
get when you get
carne
the
de Hugo.
enchiladas, when you get the enchilada Suizas, they're like a white cream sauce, I think.
Yeah, no, you're right. But this was just tomatillos and chuck roast and some bacon. And it's a really good soup recipe. It's really yummy.
Sounds good. What about Christmas? Do you do any of the Christmas shopping for your family?
No,
Good for you.
Yeah, thank God for my beautiful wife. She handles a lot of this stuff. Like the last week, she's been decorating the house. Like every day, there's a new situation, new lights, new whatever.
So what do you get for her? The woman that does everything.
Oh, whatever she likes, whatever she would want.
Meaning she picks out her own gift.
I mean, meaning I haven't gotten her anything. Is what I'm saying. And she does pick out her own gift. Yes.
Got it. Now, final question regarding Christmas, and it's an important one. Fake tree or real tree?
Real tree, and we bought it today in the rain. A real tree in the rain. It's being decorated as we speak. And cool. I'm getting a little bit of pushback. I need to be there for the decorating. So got kind of a hard out here.
All right, we'll keep it to the 1 hour. I think we only ever promised 1 hour from the earliest of days, and it often goes to 90 minutes. But if you ever get 90, it's just a bonus. 1 hour is all that we're promising.
Exactly right.
Well, hey, we could fill a whole hour with just talking about Nazare.
Good, because that's really all I got. I don't have much more than that. Other than I did go on a surf trip. I got back Sunday. So I went down to Mexico for the last South Swell and surfed all day Thursday, all day Friday, all day Saturday. Super fun, little 3 to 4 foot squiggly runner, right hand point waves. And it was really a great time. And I needed to get into some warm water with some trunks on. And it was good, man. It was so much fun.
You were with Taylor Knox.
Yeah. Yep. It was a Taylor and this friend of Taylor's, this guy named Paul. And it was just us and our host Bugs down at Punta Conejo Resort.
So first of all, was that planned in advance? Was it a strike mission? How'd you get hooked up with Taylor?
Yeah, it was more of for me, it was a strike mission. I mean, I was trying to get on the last south swell, and I'd seen this one, and my friend Bugs, who's part owner of this resort, he's a buddy of mine, and we do some business stuff together. He's like, "Hey, I'm going to be down there. If you want to come down, just come down." And I was like, "Yeah, you know what? I will." So I booked a ticket, and then he's like, "Hey, by the way, Taylor's going to be down here too." And so it was just random circumstance, but it was cool because I got to surf with Taylor, which is, I mean, it's just great for your surfing, to see somebody with so much great form, such great form, so much power. And he's fun to talk to about the technicalities, kind of like the way Brad, the way you might talk with Brad about positioning of, where to be. One of the most interesting things actually that Taylor talked to me about, and we talked about a lot of stuff, and some of it's off the record, and I won't bring it up, but some of it was this concept of space and time. Taylor's big on space and time. When he's judging other surfers, he wants to look at space and time, meaning what are you doing between turns with your space and your time. It's basically a way to look at style, right? It's sort of another way to look at it. But yeah, okay, you're doing that big top turn, or you're doing that big bottom turn, or you're doing the big roundhouse. But what are you doing with your body in that space and time between the next turn? What does your transition look like? And it was, it's a good way to, for me, it was a good way to look at my surfing.
This is a brand new concept to me, and I'm all ears. Can you explain it a little further? Like, can you give me an example of a surfer that Taylor likes and how they're utilizing space and time versus maybe one that doesn't use it well?
Well, I can't speak for who Taylor likes and doesn't like. I mean, obviously the one that Taylor and I agree is the GOAT is Tom Curran, and so if you watch Tom between turns, what's he doing? And
so
what is he doing? Well, a lot of times he's not doing much, which is kind of important, like I'll tell you what he's not doing: 3 check turns before the next turn. You know what I mean? Three little checky bottom turns. You look at Taylor's just going bottom turn, power arc, bottom turn, power arc. So between the 2 turns, there's not a lot of repositioning and, got to check, it's kind of buttery, between the turns, and that space and time, it's like melted butter, you know what I'm saying? Melted butter.
So is it strictly for style, or does it set up the bottom turn and the top turn better?
Yes. Yes. The answer is yes. That's what it does. It's for style, and it sets those things up.
Okay.
And yeah.
We talk about the in-between all the time and what you do or don't do in transition. I've never heard it explained in the sense of space and time. And I'm wondering, I want Taylor to do a deep dive into it. It sounds more metaphysical than just.
Well, I might be butchering it. Maybe I thought it was space and time, but maybe it's
well, you might know it. It makes perfect sense, but I'm saying I would think that this sounds like it has a metaphysical element to it, because you could talk about space and time with quantum scientists, and that relates. I mean, and when you do talk about that with them, they talk about how, land that has had a war on it has this negative energy attached to it versus land that had a wedding on it, or this water that has the word love written on it is different than the water that has the word hate written on it. And so it goes way, way deeper. And I'm curious, I'd love to hear Taylor do a deep dive. He seems like the kind of guy who would too.
Yeah.
Because he's into yoga and meditation and all that stuff.
Yeah. I think it's more just like, not that deep. I think it's more about on the surface, but it's interesting that you bring this up, because I do think that on some level, if you're just standing still between turns, like not amping your arms or doing check, just if you're more or less in a place of stasis, you're really present. You know what I mean? You're really present. In other words, if I'm doing something with my arms and my legs, I'm thinking about what I got to be doing next in my next turn rather than being in that moment. And so I'm not suggesting to you that Taylor is suggesting that, but I'm just saying that what you just brought up made me think about the guys that are really present in the now, in the present when they're riding waves, generally have good style. And they're generally those types of people that you mentioned, like the Rob Machados or the Tom Kerns, that are have sort of I don't know, like a vibe, or like a
Yeah,
like a new age thing. I don't know. I don't know.
I'm into it. The fastest way through water always is just with minimal motion, and so that makes sense. Even though you're not in the water in the example that you're giving, I think it still applies. The more chaos you create, the more resistance you create.
So what was really cool too about this trip is that I went down there without boards, because Bugs has got a bunch of boards down there, the owner of the resort. He's got 100 boards down there, and they're all trippy, like kind of, they're not, there's a bunch of everything, right? So I rode, for instance, I rode Peter Townend's winning board from the 1980 Caton.
Crazy.
And you've probably seen it. It's an asymmetrical, it's a single fin, but it's got an asymmetrical twin fin in it. So it's actually a twin fin, but it's got a single fin, and then it's super asymmetrical. And of course, for 1980s boards, you can imagine it was really boxy, probably 3¼ inches thick at the thickest point. It had sort of a late 70s singles fin outline. So I rode that. That was a lot of fun. I rode Channel Islands Fishbeard. I rode a Rob Machado fish, like the first fish that he came out with. What was that one called? I forget. Not the Seaside, but the twin fin.
From CI or from Firewire?
From Firewire.
Go Fish, maybe?
The Go Fish, but it wasn't a Firewire. It was a custom made one.
Got it.
That was a really cool board. I rode one of Alex Nost's board. Alex Nost had this maybe like 5'8", and it had a longboard nose. So think like a 22-inch wide round nose, and then pulled in hips to a 4-fin kind of a thumbtail. And the front fins were Bonzer fins, like the long Bonzer fins were the 2 front fins. And then the back fins were just normal, 3 3/4, 4-inch back fins. And it was generally speaking, as I described it, it's kind of an ugly board, when you think about it, like, a big bulbous nose. It was thin though, but that board was insane. Like that was probably the ugliest board I rode, but I was really psyched on it. Like it had a lot of mojo.
And did he shape it himself?
I think he did. Yeah, I think he did.
Interesting.
And what else did I ride? Oh, well, the best board I rode was one of Taylor's boards. In fact, I probably rode it too much. He was pretty generous with me. I kept going, hey, can I ride that one more time? And it was a Chris Borst 4-fin fish called a Slim Fish. And this board was insane, like super good. It reminded me of my old Hinson fish, where it had enough of a wide area up in the nose that it kind of carried speed. You didn't have to do anything. In space and time, you could just stand there and the board would plane. But when the wave kicked up and you were ready to go, you could get into action and start moving the board around. But it also had just enough of a pulled in nose to not be real kind of bulbous and fish-like in the nose. It had a really cool outline. Like I said, reminded me of my Hinson fish that I rode forever. And it was fast, man. It was fast. And it was just one of those boards where you're like, okay, time, you could downshift it into second gear and go, and then throw it into third gear, and you were off and running. And then you could throw it into fourth gear and just be flying. And it was just super responsive. And that board, I'm like, Taylor, I want one of these boards. Like, order me. Like, so I even reached out to Chris Borst, like literally like driving home from the airport. I'm like on Instagram going, I love this board. Want to order one right away. What do I, can I Venmo you? Like, and he's like, yeah, but let me see. I wonder if he's gotten back to me. But that was really generous of Taylor to let me ride that board so much. But he was stoked. He had all sorts of boards. He's like, ride it, but
that's awesome.
You know how that can be though. Sometimes somebody's like, yeah, go ahead, ride it. But under their breath, they're like, oh, fuck.
Totally.
But he'd had this board for a couple of years, I think. So it wasn't like a new board that he was trying to figure out or anything like that.
Did you find any free scrubbers?
No, but how great is that movie when he just goes, a scrubber, a free scrubber.
Well, that's the Bugs connection that listeners might not have identified, but on that trip, in that film, Kern's down there with Bugs, right?
Yeah, and Bugs makes a little cameo, and
Yep.
they were stuck down there for 3 months because of COVID. Yeah, so it was a really fun trip. Just 3 days, hit and split. It was just kind of like the perfect thing. There was nobody around,
What a nice way to break up California cold water winter too.
I really needed it because I was getting into this like winter kind of fat bod, like I came back just feeling rocked up and ready to go,
Totally.
And of course I've been cooking all day. That hasn't.
I was gonna say,
helped.
slide right back into your slovenly ways.
Peppermint Milanos from freaking what's that cookie company that makes those Milanos?
Pepperidge Farm.
Yeah, Pepperidge Farm peppermint Milanos.
You're taking a break from Lorna Doone.
Poor Lorna,
Lorna's your summer cookie. The mint Milana's the winter cookie.
Oh my God, those mint Milanos are pretty good. They're thinner, man. They're thinner. But I will say this: I'm big on the AG1, man. I've been pounding the AG1 athletic greens. I'm a big fan.
I actually take it on trips with me as well, just to have some semblance of consistency to my diet.
Taylor had this interesting stuff. What was it? Let me see if I can find it. All these guys have their own little secret sauce, and
Totally.
take a picture of it, but it's some like protein powder that you add to coffee that he's an investor in. I wish I could remember the name of it, but it was really good, and gave you a little power boost.
Quick follow-up from last week. Did you ever watch the Pete Mel documentary?
I did. I watched it right after. What a great documentary.
What's the name of it?
Everything and All.
Good job. Was that in your notes?
No.
Wow. Okay. I didn't think anybody would remember it. Yeah, there you go. AG1 working it. So what'd you think of the doc?
I thought it was great. I really did. Yeah. I enjoyed the heck out of it.
Good.
I'm a big fan of his and the honesty. That's the thing. Like that's all we want as fans of documentaries is truth and honesty, and that came out. There's a lot of vulnerability there for him, and that takes some humility, and I also think that strengthens you as a man when you show vulnerability and you have humility, and that wave, that ride. I mean, it's just a great story arc. You know what I mean? Like it's just, you couldn't script it any better than, hey, let's say at the end of the movie, this guy catches the best wave ever ridden at Mavericks. Like it's great,
Even beyond that, I don't know, it might have been after the credits, Pete Mel, or his son, John Mel, gets that left. Yeah. And it's basically like a barrel. It's a pocket red kind of, but Pete's on the ski filming it on his iPhone and even says, he's like, oh my gosh, like what a day. I think that might've been the same day that Pete got his wave.
Yeah. I believe it was.
And so it's like, yeah, Pete's really, the story beyond Pete is bigger than Pete, and it's his dad and it's his son, and Pete's just one segment in this ongoing, family saga. And the fact that John is picking up right where Pete left off in terms of surfing is epic.
And Pete has a brother that's a shaper. He's on Kauai. He's a really renowned, sought after big wave, surfboard
What's
shaper.
His name?
I think it's Dave, but I'm not positive. I think it's David Mel.
I have no idea how I never connected that dot.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I'm glad you liked it. I liked it too. Listeners can go get it on Stab. I think it's on Stab Premium.
Yeah, you should definitely check it out.
Well, hey, the Nazare event, there's two. Is this part of the Big Wave World Tour? Because this is a tow event.
That is Dave Mel. Okay. I don't know. It's so like this kind of reeks of what we talked about last time. I don't even really know. I just know the WSL's broadcasting it.
Not only do I not know, it's hard to even find out who a winner was of the event. it almost doesn't matter in a sense. It's just a great exhibition to put on. In the end, I really don't care who won and who didn't win, but the fact that it's a tow event makes me feel like it is an exhibition event and it's not part of the Big Wave World Tour, because how could you have a paddle contest and a tow contest for the, there's two events on tour and they're both different disciplines essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Weird.
Yeah. I mean, what we do know is that, talk about the cream rising to the top. Like we talk about, on the CT, there's the top 5 and then there's everyone else. Totally. That seems to be the case with these tow teams at Nazare. And I'm not an expert, but the vibe I got, and I actually watched some of this live. In fact, or no, maybe I didn't watch it live. I watched a condensed heat, but I watched the first heat, the very first wave. Lucas Chumbo catches this bomb, does this, I don't even know what you call those, David.
Chop hop.
Does a chop hop at the top of the wave. This insane, long, drawn out bottom turn, pulls into this incredible top section. I mean, it's like, okay, you guys, everyone else, good luck, try to beat that. Like, it was mind blowing, like immediately right off the bat. You're like, these guys are on their game right now. They don't need a warm up wave. They don't need any of that BS. Lucas Chumbo was just on it, like Chumbo, just. And then from there, it was like, okay, that's the guy. Then you would watch other rides, and you're like, no, boring as shit. Just show me Chumbo. That guy's doing insane shit.
So Chumbo is this is a team event because obviously it's a tow event. So his partner is Kai Lenny. Kai did the same thing on his right. He did the chop hop. He didn't end up getting barreled, but it's like they both had that as a plan of attack beforehand, where, hey, once you're towed into the wave, you have 8 seconds to 10 seconds before the thing actually starts breaking. So what do you do in that time? Let's utilize that time. Let's do a chop up. Let's wow everybody. Turns out to be an easy maneuver to do. It looks really spectacular when you're on a wave that size, but anybody out there could do it, with one day of practice.
Except maybe. They weren't.
They didn't even think about, I don't think it crossed anybody's minds. I think Kai and Chumbo had that plan in advance. Let's go dazzle them. When you partner it up with a barrel, that makes it way sicker. But I really felt
another one.
Yeah, I really felt like it was almost more of a, I don't know, like a novelty, the chop hop thing.
I don't know.
It's spectacular looking, but it's really kind of
let me throw this at you. Let me throw this at you. How about the chop hop is actually a way to stall? When you think about it, you're up in the air, you're losing speed. Like, you're slowing down. You do that thing, you stop, you're at a dead stop. And it's kind of a stall tactic because they're like they want to stay up at the top of the wave as long as they can until that thing gets, I don't know. I'm just wondering if it's not just, it wouldn't surprise me if it's like, hey man, this is the best way to stay at the top. Just kind of hang out up here.
Just a functional use of space and time.
Oh, there you
So you're right. So this is when you said the cream rises to the top, these guys won 2 years in a row. They're undeniable. And Kai, I think, is the wonderkin. But the fact that he could partner with anybody. The fact that he chooses to partner with Chumbo says something. And I feel like Chumbo, Lucas Chianca is his name, has been I don't know that he's been overlooked. He doesn't get all the glory that Kai Lenny has. I don't think he has all the sponsor support or anything like that. But his name constantly comes up. I remember Garrett McNamara talking about him throughout the 100-foot wave documentary. Obviously, Kai Lenny, everybody hypes the guy. So it's kind of nice to see him, participating in the win.
Wasn't he at the Jaws event too, doing like super late drops?
Yeah, like doing the floaty takeoff.
Yeah, the floaty takeoff. That's exactly right. Like letting the board catch air underneath the nose. And
exactly. Yeah, he's really pretty, what's the word? Spectacular in his antics, like he's a good showman.
Yeah,
essentially, but he's talented, obviously.
Oh yeah.
There's a number of things worth discussing about this event. They're riding small boards. Oh, by the way, I looked it up on WSL's website. It is part of the Big Wave World Tour.
Okay.
So if you click on that tour, there's only 2 events: the Jaws, Quicksilver Jaws, which has not run yet, and then the Nazare event. I don't remember it being listed as a tow event previously. So maybe they make that decision kind of at game time. At any rate. So a couple of things worth discussing. The swell was scheduled to be bigger. I think it might have been bigger on the day that they didn't run, but it was too foggy, so they had to wait. And now it ran on Sunday in California, basically in 20 to 30 foot surf, which is absolutely contestable and big. There was plenty of opportunities for everybody, but it wasn't, the biggest Nazare we've ever seen. It certainly wasn't the 100-foot kind of opportunity that everybody's looking for now. There was a couple of spectacular wipeouts. Kai Lenny himself, did you see his wipeout on the right in front of the cliff?
Yeah, it was insane.
He was going so fast. I mean, just Mach 1 speed. I think that he might have done a chop up on that wave too. But he's just flying through the inside section of that wave so fast, and he kind of manages a bump or two. But then he goes down in front of the cliff and thankfully gets washed just north of the cliff. And then it's pure pandemonium with skis trying to get him. I think one ski actually flipped. Chumbo tries to rescue him, flips, that gets washed into the beach. Somebody else comes in. Before they actually get rescued, they're close enough to shore to where they can kind of get to safety. But chaotic scenes in the water.
Yeah, Chumbo jammed in there to pick him up, did pick him up, and then tried to, as they put the gas on the ski, they kind of spun out, caught a rail a little bit and some foam on the very corner of a wave that was breaking, and that's all she wrote.
Chumbo, it was a spectacular rescue actually, because there was a left coming at them. Chumbo gets the arm onto Kai and pulls him up onto the sled and guns it kind of in a fast stand-up section on the left. It's like he's surfing the wave almost.
Yeah.
And yeah, they, like you said, they kind
tried
of
to kind of come. Yeah.
Yeah. Tried to cut out of the wave and kind of caught a rail and fully took a digger. Chumbo goes over the handlebars. And then of course the wave flips the ski. Kai's on the back on the sled and goes over with it. Really, really spectacular, actually. Wipeout. Scary though.
Yeah, it was intense.
So my question throughout this event is, well, let me back up. Considering what people are doing nowadays in big waves, it's shocking that there aren't more deaths. When I was growing up watching surfing in the 90s, it seemed like every other year or so there was, Donnie Solomon, Mark Fu, Todd Chesser at big wave spots, Waimea, mostly in Hawaii, or I guess Fu is at Mavericks, but big wave surfing, there was always the threat. And then every couple of years, something would actually go down. I feel like for the past decade, records are getting set. There's just crazier and crazier surfing happening and everybody's surviving. There was obviously Maya Gaviera's near-death drowning at Nazare. There was the ski accident last year, Alex Botello's ski accident.
Yeah.
All of this made me think after watching this Nazare event, I think the reason why there's been fewer deaths is because there's water safety in place. That makes perfect sense. But I think that actually might be the culprit at Nazare eventually. I feel like the death or the injury is going to come because of all these skis. When you watch, I think they need to be out there at Nazare, but that is what is creating the most dramatic moments, are these skis zooming in into crazy sections in the whitewash in front of the cliff, sputtering out because it's all foamy, flipping over, the ski landing on somebody, like that's what happened with Alex Botello. Is him, I think it was him hitting the ski is what knocked him out. And then with Kai Lenny going over the falls on that wave on the sled, it's like, dude, if that's the wave, you guys have survived the wave. You've proven that a million times, but if you get hit by that ski, nobody's surviving that,
Yeah, that's a really interesting take, but it's kind of like, what are you going to do? I mean, you and I have spoken at length about the ski drivers at Nazare are almost in more peril than the surfers. Like those guys, like what they're doing is, it could be argued, is gnarlier than actually letting go of the rope and riding down the thing and raising your hand and going, come pick me up. Those guys are getting you into the wave, dealing with all sorts of shit, following you, looking behind their back. It's just to be a ski driver at Nazare, I just there deserves to be some sort of like, when they have the XXL awards or whatever, there needs to be some sort of recognition for these guys on some level. Maybe not, I don't know, but certainly it's not like driving a ski, anywhere else in the world. Nazare is just
No,
gnarly.
it's crazy. And there's so many out there now. I mean, when there's 6 teams in the water, that's 6 skis plus probably a few safety skis. I feel like it's a recipe for disaster, and you can't see the entire lineup from water level. So you could be flying in for a rescue or flying over a wave trying to escape a situation. There could be another team right out in the landing zone, for where you're coming down. I really feel like, obviously, like you said, these are the best drivers in the world. And so who am I to criticize or question? But I really feel like it's a accident waiting to happen, kind of. And we've already had close calls with it. The most insane thing, I think, from the event was that Team France, Justine Dupont on the sled with her partner, Pierre Rollet, driving, and he does that crazy floater on the ski. Did you see that?
I don't think I saw that.
Holy cow, dude. I'm going to send it right now because you have to watch it while we're talking. It's like he's headed out the back with her on the back of the sled, almost like he just picked her up from a rescue. And they're kind of on the inside. And so he's like gunning straight out, but then has to turn because a wave's coming. And he actually hits the crest of the wave and does a full-on float.
Oh, yeah. I did see that. That was insane.
And actually lands it for a split second before he
tries to gun out of it, and then they both flip.
Yeah. I mean, that was a proper floater on like a 8-foot wave that was like
Holy
pitching.
crap.
I just sent it to you if you want to look at your phone.
Yeah. Yeah, that was mind-blowing.
That's an 8-foot inside section that he just fully does a proper floater on. It's insane.
That's so
I don't know that he could have done anything else there. That's just how much chaos is in the water. There was no other option for him.
This guy. Oh my lordy. Well, I mean, they both survived, so good for them.
How? So my question, I guess, to you is, did he make a mistake? Is he a kook, or was that his only option at that moment? You know what I mean? And if these are the best guys in the world, then there's that much chaos, then it's something bad is bound to happen.
Something bad's going to happen. I mean, if we keep pushing the envelope, it's just, unfortunate, but that's kind of what pushes the envelope, right? Or these situations that these guys are young, they're athletic, they're doing crazy stuff, and eventually it's going to catch up to us. Hopefully not in too sad of a situation, but you're right. It's just a matter of time before somebody dies via ski.
One of the highlights of the events was Pedro Scooby's 9.5. Did you see that wave?
I don't think I saw that.
So he's Nick Von Rupp's tow partner.
Yeah.
He's from Brazil. He's a goofy footer from Brazil. He gets a big stand-up barrel on a left.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It wasn't if you get that the wave way outside, it's kind of burgery. This one was kind of pushing up more against the cliff, so it really stood up. So it wasn't the 60-foot face wave. It was more like a proper 20-25, which is still huge to get barreled on.
Yeah.
But where Lucas Chumbo's chop hop to barrel was like a little almondy pocket ride at the top of the wave.
Yeah.
This was more of like a top to bottom 20-footer. And totally sick. He got a 9.5 for it. So it's spectacular.
That's cool.
Yeah.
With a name like Pedro Scooby, it's a great name, isn't it? Pedro, he should be like a ball player. Like, he sounds like a baseball player or something.
Yeah, I think Scooby's his nickname, but I forget what his last name is. I remember him coming through Huntington Beach one time with that whole crew, like the Nike 6.0 days. Gabriel Medina, Felipe Toledo, who else? There was a couple of other guys that were super hot at that time, and he was part of that crew. And I was like, this guy, he can barely surf. Like, he's hanging with him, he's partying with them, he's at night hooking up with chicks or whatever. And he just was not a great surfer. And then throughout the years, I realized he's got a big wave. He's all focused on big waves. Yeah. So I didn't know that at the time, and it wasn't too impressive in small Huntington.
Scooby-Doo.
So he actually won the best performance, I think, due to that 9.5. The scoring works a little bit different in this format. You get 2 waves, but the best of the 2 waves gets doubled. And so that 9.5 times 2 shot him out into the lead. The best women's performance went to Justine Dupont.
Yeah.
Who, again, you said the cream rises to the top. She's kind of untouchable.
Yeah.
In these events. I'd throw Paige Alms into the conversation if we're at Jaws, but otherwise Justine Dupont has kind of risen above everybody else. The best team performance was the aforementioned Kai Lenny and Lucas Chianca. And then the most committed award went to Pedro Scooby, probably again for that barrel.
Yeah, most committed. It says here, most committed. Yeah. Well,
I think one of the highlights for me is the fact that they are riding shorter boards because it's a tow event. They're ripping, not only chop ops, but they're doing turns too.
I'm watching some of the highlights right now. I watched some of it earlier, but holy mackerel. I mean, it's funny. There's a pretty good article. I think Brendan Buckley or one of the guys on Stab wrote a pretty good article about how we've all sort of come to accept Nazare as like the pinnacle. Where for years it was like, it's a burger. It's kind of a burger. It's kind of like, it's not even a wave. Huh?
I think Paul Evans maybe wrote that.
Okay, yeah, Paul Evans, yeah. And it was a really good look at the way that, us, the consumer or the media or social media in this case, has sort of, it's evolved to a place where we're like, yeah, Nazare, that's where you're going to ride the 100-foot wave, or for a long time for whatever reason. And he kind of does a really good job of excavating, it's Garrett, whatever, like everything was kind of taken with a grain of salt. And then, people started getting in crazy situations like Maya and Andrew Cotton got these incredible, and there was these Guinness Book of waves, and the town itself was doing a great job of marketing themselves. And eventually, you got these pretty crazy kind of like water eyes view from a photographer of Dorian paddling into the wave then everyone showed up, Long and Twiggy and all these guys all like validated and legitimized the wave, and they had a paddle event there. And now it's kind of like, and I was at Jojo Roper's getting some dings fixed the other day, and he was like, let's bring back the paddle event there, like, and I mean, that's, I think, too, I think Greg Long or those paddle guys will tell you that's the gnarliest paddle situation ever, even if there's skis in the water, because you got like a 10-10 beach break, 40-foot beach break with like, it's just a nightmare to have a 10-10 being dragged behind you as you get picked up by a ski and you're about to get mauled by 40 feet of whitewater.
Do you still feel like the wave's a burger?
It very much can be, and very much is often, but there's, they were saying in the article, they've kind of got the swell direction figured out, the winds figured out, so that, it's going to either be burgery or, this thing's going to hit the canyon right, it's going to stand upright, and the winds are this, and, it's, as I recall, help me out, when we watched the paddle event that they had there, were we excited about it, or were we like, whatever?
I don't recall, to be honest. That article that you're talking about, though, the opening image, the header image at the top of the article, that's shot from the town.
Yeah.
So like from the south looking north, where you can see the point, and there's just a freaking 40-foot A-frame that's like actually fully barreling, is such a crazy photo, and really, makes it not look like a burger. That wave certainly was not a burger.
Well, that rolls into the rock, and from that angle, that right looks like the gnarliest backdoor. Like, it stands up like it's insane, but the left's kind of semi-burgery. But from that vantage, from the town looking north, looking into that right, it's a great photograph.
Well, those are the rights that Kai Lenny's always aiming for, and that's why he's winning events. And I think that's the key out there, is your tow team needs to be looking for the waves that are doubling up, and not, the giant peak out the back that's going to burger. And you can't even outrun that burger anyways, so it's not even worth going on those, even if it technically might look bigger from certain angles.
Yeah, the right's short and sweet and powerful.
Well,
It's,
speaking of the
yeah.
right, 2 days prior to the event, did you see Andrew Cotton's wipeout that went viral?
No. You got
This was
another wipeout? Poor guy.
This was crazy. This was actually, the wipeout itself wasn't bad, but he got washed into the cliff.
Ooh.
So that's what was bad. I'll actually just quote, I'll give you Andrew's words. He said, "I was surfing, being towed by Almeo. He got me into a couple of waves. The conditions were kind of crappy, the odd gem, kind of bumpy, big and fat. I took a right and he did a normal rescue. And then a big side wedge came off the cliff, which we negotiated. But we were going quite fast and the ski ended up getting a lot of air. I was lying on the sled while he was driving. We landed pretty normal, but he got bounced off the ski. So I'm lying on the sled with no driver. And I was like, crap. So I scrambled up to the ski and it was still running. I saw Almeo. And then I saw there was another wave coming at us and it looked like it was going to land right on us. And I was like, shoot, I've got to go. So he grabbed, I guess Almeo grabbed the sled and I pinned it and just started flying. Everything happened so quickly. He fell off. I could see that there was a gap straight ahead and that the only thing I could do was gas it and drive straight, hoping that I make it, but I got clipped. So after Andrew fell off on a wave, got rescued, he got on the ski, the driver fell off, Andrew climbs up, picks up the other guy, guns it, and then they both fall off. So while Andrew, the way that he was trying to rescue was he was in that cove on the north side of the lighthouse and he was aiming towards the lighthouse. Like basically a wave was coming at them that was a right. So rather than going towards the whitewash, he went towards the open face, trying to make that narrow gap between the cliff and where the wave is breaking.
Right.
And he gets clipped. So now he's in front of the lighthouse, in front of the cliff, without a ski to rescue him, flailing.
Does he go towards the town? Like
yes.
Well, the rocks towards the town?
Yeah. So the current will, when you're in that position, it'll push you that way. And the current was moving really, really fast. Thankfully, there wasn't another set wave out the back. So somebody actually filmed this on their iPhone from the cliff. And you can see there's no waves coming, but there's still just tons and tons of water moving. You know, it's a full rinse cycle in there, but it's all froth. You know, there's 3 feet of froth. Oh. And so Andrew was saying, you know, the water was so aerated that he couldn't kind of get any traction at all. He was just completely at the mercy of the ocean. And he got washed up. So there's a number of different large rocks sticking up. Right, and of course, it's all rocks underneath. There was a number of times where he got washed up onto the rocks and then just washed right back down. And thankfully, he never got slammed into them with like brute force, but he was definitely like pushed entirely up against him, maybe with a little cushion of watery, airy water. Yeah. And then through a couple of big surges, he got pushed to the south side of the cliff. And interestingly, that's where the ski ended up being as well. And it was flipped over. So he was able to get back to the ski. Later that day, they took it into Yamaha and it turned out there was just some water in the air filter that they were able to clear out. So he still has the ski as well.
Wow, that's crazy. Getting totally pushed crazy. Towards the south.
Yeah. He really just like does a pinball thing through the rocks. And you're just watching his body. It looks lifeless, you know, because he's not able to swim or anything. And you're just watching him from the bird's eye angle, getting pushed around and then finally just pushed out into the clear. So really harrowing moment.
No, I'm glad he's okay. He seems like such a great guy. I'm sure he is a good guy because what you see is what you get, right? That HBO documentary, he really comes off as a cool dude.
I actually interviewed him for the podcast a few months, actually when that HBO documentary was airing. And he's just so humble, mild-mannered, soft-spoken, just wants to surf big waves, you know, like kind of is not what you need to be. You need to be like such a showman and selling your own stuff in this modern era. Yeah. You know, back in the day, somebody could have Patagonia or I don't know, so anybody would have just come and picked him up and exploited him and he wouldn't have to do anything. you know, a la Craig Anderson was kind of that personality. Dane Reynolds was that personality. And, but now it's like, if you're not selling yourself, you're not selling anything. And so
Yeah.
I feel like he could actually have double the publicity that he has. He's just too humble.
He's like an electrician from Cornwall that surfs big waves. You know
Plumber.
what I mean?
Plumber,
Is that what he is?
actually.
A plumber? Yeah. That's even better. As a
Totally.
kind of trade, he's a plumber.
Well, congrats to the winners. Congrats to everybody at that event. Congrats to the survivalists. And,
let me ask you this:
when it was a success,
when it was on live, were you geared up and psyched to be watching it, or were you bummed that you were missing it, or were you like, whatever, I'll watch the condensed?
Option C. I did not. Wasn't too excited. I was actually home. I had electronic devices all around me. I did not open one of them once to watch any of it because I'd rather watch the condensed version, and it worked out fine for me.
Yeah, me too. The condensed version's pretty good.
Yeah, I thought so too. The other news that dropped out of Stab Magazine this week was that Jack Robinson is their new Stab in the Dark writer.
Oh, I didn't see that on Stab. That's interesting. I've got Stab here. I'm a premium member. What did I miss?
It's actually only available to premium right now. They said they're going to announce it next week with a little video to the general public. But I think that's a great pick. You know, the Stab in the Dark feature is obviously they get 13 short boards. They don't tell the shaper who the surfer is. They tell them the height, the weight, the dimensions that surfer normally rides. And the shapers just build what they feel is the best high performance shortboard. Then those boards get delivered to the surfer completely anonymously. There's no identifying marks or characteristics on the board. So Jack Robinson surfs the 13 boards blind, so to speak, double blind, and then picks a winner, narrows it down, picks a winner. Usually they go to some exotic location to test the board in good waves. They said that they're going to an island in the Pacific for this test. And I think Jack's a fantastic surfer to put through this challenge.
We'll see. You know, I think, as you know, that it's more to it than being a fantastic surfer. I would suggest it's almost more important to be a fantastic communicator. And you and I have spoken about this at length. There's a lot of guys that can ride boards really well, but there's not a lot of guys that can communicate effectively in an engaging manner, and tell us, you know, about the boards. And frankly, Taj was great. You know, like Taj is a tough act to follow. He kind of had a devil may care, I don't give a shit kind of vibe, where Jack's still young enough. He doesn't want to piss anyone off, you know.
True.
You know, so we'll see. You know, at the end of the day, he is in Australia. The Aussies sometimes won't hold back because they're brutally honest in some regard, which is a blessing.
So Jack, though, he's so soft-spoken. Even when he's winning, he, like that Mexico event, he won. And I feel like he didn't really say 10 words throughout all of his post-heat interviews, you know, like there was very little enthusiasm. And he seems nice and he seems articulate and well-spoken. He's just a man of few words. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can get it out of him. I guess if they're on a surf trip, he's with the same group of people, hopefully that those producers can soften him up after day 1 or 2 and he'll start letting it flow. But remains to be seen.
Island in the Pacific. Where are we doing this? Ponape?
I have no idea. You'd want rippable. You don't want just barreling waves. You know, you want to have some rippable waves. So,
By the way, I remember last time we were like, what do you think in September they have the event at Barra? And I'm hearing through the grapevine that that's going to be the case.
Oh, okay, good.
But again, it's just sort of parking lot fodder, but
it's Mexico fodder, maybe.
No, well, yeah, I did hear it in Mexico, but not from Taylor. I heard it sort of just through other channels, but
yeah, I think that's fair. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I would think that would be good too. Speaking of a contest, look, the HIC Pipe Pro, that's the event we were wondering about last time. I was like, I think there's a pipe event happening. And there is, but it's not even a challenger. It's a QS 1000.
Holy guacamole,
it's a QS 1000. the waiting period was December 8th through the 20th, which is the normal pipe permit waiting period. And they were on hold today. And I guess it hasn't been that great. But I'm seeing here that it looks like it's going to be 6 to 8 to 10 feet Friday and Saturday, with it fading away on Sunday the 19th, all within the waiting period. A northwest swell. I think they've been getting a lot of north swells and northeast trade swell, but that might be why there's a sense of, oh, the waves aren't as good as a normal pipe event. But like I said, they're staring down some pretty solid northwest swell here for this weekend if they can hang on.
I mean, is that going to be the first 1,000 one-star event or whatever that like Kelly Slater and John compete in, and Gabriel Medina? I mean, I would think everybody would show up to that, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know if I would hope that those guys aren't even allowed to surf in it, but it says here Barry Mamiya, Mason Ho, Ian Gentile, Eli Hanneman, Billy Kemper, Keanu Singh.
Everybody wants to surf pipe with with 3 other guys out. Like, I could see everybody showing up for that.
Oh, they are saying, yeah, there's going to be John, Ezekiel, Ema Kalani DeVault, and more. So I don't know where I can see the full breakdown, but yeah, all the heavy hitters. Who wouldn't want to be there?
I'll be watching. So I wasn't tuned into Nazare, but I'll definitely be watching that event.
I'm not even sure if they're broadcasting it. It must
that'd
be.
be a shame.
They must be.
Yeah, that'd be a total miss if they didn't. We've kind of alluded to this and talked about it maybe off air, but haven't had this conversation formally on air. But do you have thoughts on how vaccine protocol is going to affect the 2022 tour?
I think we're not done with this. I don't think we're done with this. I think this is going to be a problem. I think this is going to be something that we're going to be dealing with. I think COVID's hanging around, and we know it is. In Europe, they're in lockdown. In Australia, they're in lockdown. In South Africa, lockdown. And even here in the States, the state of California has just issued a mask mandate. You have to wear a mask indoors.
Returning to mask mandate starting tomorrow, I think. Yeah. Which we haven't had for how many months?
I don't know. And
9 months, a year, maybe. It's been a while.
It's such a weird thing because, you just get the feeling people aren't going to do it. I think people are generally, there's just so much, what's the word I'm looking for? COVID, when you're tired. Fatigue, thank you. COVID fatigue. And yeah, I don't know. But I mean, you can't go into a store without a mask on.
So as it relates to the tour,
yes.
Let's say Australia requires vaccines.
Yes.
Kelly Slater has been pretty vocally anti-vax.
Yes.
He's all but said that he won't get a vax. Gabriel Medina has said that he does not want to get vaxxed. So Gabriel Medina, especially as the defending world champ, not being able to go to Australia creates a really compelling situation.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's their choice. You don't have to get vaxxed. That's fine. And, we'll see who the champion is. It certainly won't be Gabe Medina. It won't be Kelly. I mean, didn't Kelly say he was going to retire when Parko said he was going to retire? Remember there was like that, like Parko's like retiring and Kelly's like, me too. And then, do you remember that? Like a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I remember him saying it a bunch of times. I've stopped keeping track. The point is Kelly's not going to win a world title. I mean, again,
but I mean,
would say.
What I'm getting at is, don't you sense that if there wasn't any like COVID nightmare, if everything was back to normal, Kelly probably would be like, okay, this is my swan song, and go out.
I have no idea. I have no idea what to expect from him. But
anyway, the vaccine thing's interesting.
I could see Kelly. I don't know if this was what you were getting at, but him not getting a vax would be more important to him. Like holding his ground on that front would be more important to him than going to compete in Australia. So I could see him not getting the vax, but I could see Gabriel Medina compromising his own decision because the world title is more important.
Didn't he say something like he was thinking about not competing this year, though?
Yeah, you're right. He did. He told Brazilian media that he'd be happy to take a year off because he's been at such an intense level for so long. So this could be, that's a great possible storyline, is that Gabriel Medina sits out COVID year number 2 to take a break.
No Gabe. And that's interesting for Idolo and for Felipe and for
John.
Right. I wonder, where do these people stand on getting vaccinated?
They have not been vocal about it.
Yeah, they're smart.
All right,
I'll tell you, and I've told everyone, I am fully vaccinated. I got my booster before it was the cool thing to do. You've heard the story. And I said, line it up. I'll snort that thing. You know, I put so much shit in my body. Are you kidding me? This stuff's at least been vetted. Yeah. There's people ODing on fentanyl. They're worried about vaccines.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Have you gotten COVID?
No.
Okay. Yeah, me neither. Good.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway. Well, my must-see moment is, of course, the jet ski floater heard around the world. That is the most spectacular. I've used the word spectacular like 20 times in this show, but it's because it was the Nazare event. What else can you do?
Yeah.
I'll bring a thesaurus with me next time.
Yeah, we need another word.
Sorry. But that was the best floater I've ever seen. It was the most radical jet ski maneuver I've ever seen. And I think it was probably not intended. And that driver is probably going to catch a lot of flack, but it made for a spectacular 21.
No, it was extravagant.
That's not the right word either.
Oh, how about splashy?
Nah, it turned out to be splashy, but still not the best word.
Was it garish or gaudy?
No, it wasn't either of those.
Ostentatious?
No, it wasn't
flamboyant?
That. It was pretty flamboyant.
It was extreme. It was elaborate.
It was extreme. It was the most extreme maneuver I've ever seen on a jet ski. The jet ski floater heard around the world. It's on WSL's Instagram if you want to see that. My Duke of the week, Scott, you might not be familiar with the Duke. The Instagram account, Gothic_Dolphins.
I have seen this account. Fill me in.
Gothic Dolphins. Here's why they are my Duke.
Yes.
There's a real painstaking amount of labor that goes into creating these video memes that they are creating. Mm-hmm. It costs a lot of time, but it is precise in its hilarity. Like the comedy of it is so precise for you and I, like this very small segment of society. Even if you're into surfing, you won't get a lot of the jokes that they're making. You have to be super duper into surfing and paying close attention to every moment. And then they're so timely. You know, the guy foils or toes in at Fort Point on the foil. Yeah. And within half a day of that happening, they've got a video meme about that up on their account. So they're hilarious. They're timely. There's all this effort. And more importantly, they're completely anonymous. I have no idea who Gothic Dolphins is. I don't know if it's a man or woman. I don't know if it's a team of people. You know, it could be like Anonymous, where it's a group of people doing this thing, but they're pure joy. It's a gift this holiday season to anybody who follows that account. So Gothic Dolphins is my Duke.
Well, I'm with you on this. I'm looking through their Instagram account. It's quite hilarious. I'm a big fan of that type of humor. There's a lot of parody and sarcasm. And
so the one today, I'll kind of spoil it, but go on and look at today's 3 hours ago, they posted. It's the scene from Love Actually. So it's a holiday film. And it's where the guy shows up at Keira Knightley's door at the end. And he doesn't want to vocalize anything to her because I think her boyfriend or fiance or something's inside. So he has things written out on cards and he pulls one one sentence per card. So there's a first sentence, and then he throws it away, and then he shows her another card, throws that away, shows her another card, until he can get his whole thought out without verbalizing anything. But Gothic Dolphins erased what's on the card and wrote in like new messaging, and it's genius. It's just hilarious. There's no victim, it's not like mean spirited. It's just hilarious. And again, they're doing this completely anonymously, just as a gift for you and I, Scott.
Oh, God bless them. Gothic Dolphins. It's great stuff.
It's a great name too.
My kook is Uncle Dave Saholnick and the Sneedside event that happened at Seaside, which is a surfing contest that David puts on for the kids here in this community. And also all the funds are used to help those in need. So
I think you called them a kook.
No, I meant they're not my kook, they're my Duke.
Got it.
They're my Duke Kahanamoku.
Got it.
I'm a big fan of what Dave and Mr. Sneed are doing, the Sneedside
Sweet
surfing event. Yeah. So tip of the hat to those guys. Yeah.
Very good. Well, hey, good luck with all your Christmas cooking. We will check in next week, a few days before Christmas.
Dude, I got the air fryer. You got to go air fryer, bros.
I've heard.
I got the chicken breasts. I'm going to put them in. I'm going to put mayo on them with some seasoning. Roll those chicken breasts around, get them all saturated. Put them on the little air fryer tray. The mayo makes it crisp, bro.
I'm not familiar with the mayo technique.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, boss. Look.
All right.
Until next time. Adios and aloha.